This week was a big week in Banff, Alberta. Big hockey week, as a matter of fact, which people really wouldn't associate in July with. But at least 17 players were slated to be in Banff this week for the third annual Summer Stars hockey game. Some of the players that were supposed to show up and did were the Bruins' Bobby Orr, and they were supposed to play the Calgary Stampeder Hockey Club. This game is organized every year by New York Rangers forward Glenn Sather. Now, Glenn Sather, a lot of people don't know this, but 50 years later we do. At that time, Glenn was buying up property in Banff like crazy, and he became the owner of a large part of that very affluent resort town as the years went on. This was the start of all that. At this time, Glenn was running a couple hockey schools in the Banff area for district youngsters, and he lined up fellow New York Ranger players Jimmy Nielsen, Dave Ballone, and Bruce McGregor. A few other players coming in for the Kings was Bill Cowboy Flett, an Alberta native, and goalie Jack Norris, along with forward Ross Lonsbury. The Penguins were sending along veteran goalie Les Vinkley, another veteran defenseman Bob Wojtowicz, as long as Alberta native Val Fontaine and Brian Hextall Jr. The Sabres were even contributing a few players: Skip Crate, Ron Anderson, Dennis Hextall, who we just mentioned in our last story, will be coming along. And they're hoping that some other players expected to show up were Larry Hale, Doug Barry, and Bob Falkenberg. Well, the game was played on Saturday night, and a good time was had by all. The Calgary Stampeders surged from behind with 4 unanswered goals in the third period to earn a 4-all tie with the team that was mostly NHL players. There was a standing room only crowd at the Banff Recreation Center, and they saw the players dominate the first 2 periods of play, but then they withered or chose not to pour it on in the final period. And you must say that the Stampeders were very determined to make a good showing in this game, at least a better showing than they did in the first 40 minutes. Those who were on hand said that the game was surprisingly lively and actually a little scrappy for this kind of game at this time of year. Boston's Bobby Orr scored the opening goal of the game at 13:03 of the first period, assisted by Sather and Bruce McGregor. And you got to wonder about Bobby Orr playing in a game like this. One of the real roots of his knee injuries was an injury he received during right after his rookie season in a game like this out in Winnipeg. Now, Orr engineered that opening play. He brought the puck over the Calgary blue line, dumped it in front of Stampeders goalie Russ Gillow, another former pro. After a brief scramble, it came out of the scrum in front of the net. Orr was cruising by, and he snapped a shot past Gillow, who probably still hasn't seen it. The NHLers then got a couple of more goals from Dave Ballone within 14 seconds, and that gave them a 3-0 lead. The Stampeders made a determined rally in the last minute of the first period, but they were unable to get far against the NHL players who just know how to play defense a little bit better. Russ Gillow was really a star for the Stampeders, as he made a number of 5 saves, especially early in the second period when they could have put this one out of reach, but Russ Gillow did not let them do that. The Stampeders did finally completely roar to life in the third period, where they dominated, and they were sparked by a couple of goals by another former pro, former California SEAL center Ron Houston. And then at 12:29 of the third, Bob Bartlett scored a third Calgary marker on a pass from Tony Coleman, and that was what got the Stampeders close enough before Bartlett and Gary McQuaid set up a goal by Coleman again, and the final was Calgary 4, the NHL players 4 as well. Organized by Glenn Sather, as we said, the operator of the series, Sather said the game was sponsored by the Banff Rams and the Banff Minor Hockey Association, and they shared in the most considerable proceeds on the night.